Howdy everyone, it's the fourth judge here, and tonight we're going over UFC Fight Night Shanghai, Nurmagomedov versus Song. So first up, not too much to talk about with this card. I mean, man, it starts at like 3 a.m. Eastern time. Not a whole lot of name value. I mean, if you watch MMA regularly, there are some good fights on this card, but this is all I got. Professor Umar versus our glorious leader Yudong. I also had some other jokes in here about Japan and China, but I'm going to leave those out of it because it gets a little too much. But let's get into these fights. First up, we have Ding Ning, love that name, versus Cam Nelson. Yeah, I think this is going to be a pretty close fight. I mean, I haven't really seen too much out of Cam Nelson that's screaming like, oh, I'm going to be good, but I haven't really seen too much out of Ding Ning. So he had a split decision with Jose Souza, and Souza maybe shit, he maybe not. It's really too early to tell. So I'm just going to slightly lean with the hometown favorite here. And then also go with the old tradition. Canadians can't fight. We just saw Jillian Robertson lose her fight last week. So I'm going to go with Ming Ding here to win this one. Probably by a decision, but maybe he catches a KO, TKO, but I'm leaning decision. What do you think, man?
Yeah, I'll be on the other side of this one. I'm going to take Cam in this one. But like you said, this one is a really close, like the odds kind of show it. You know, the issue that we have with this one is that we have like just a shitter in Ming versus a shitter that fights retired people in Nelson. You know, when I was looking at Nelson's tape and kind of looking at his past opponents to see what they also have done, I ran the numbers real quick, and in my notes I have that in all of his opponents' records are 1-13-0 for his past 8 opponents. That's what their combined records are. So, and like I think the average age is like 37. So it's one of those where Ming has like 7,000 fights and gets hit 400 times in every fight.
Yep.
And then you have someone who is basically doing like the Jake Paul of MMA, fighting retired old people.
Yeah.
So this one is just up in the air. I'll take the plus money at least, and I'll go with Nelson.
Yeah. The only thing I would say for Nelson additionally is I could see maybe him locking up like an arm triangle or something like that as a win. But yeah, I'm gonna go with you. Lean with the hometown hero. But anyways, next up, we've got Zhang Jingnan versus Julia Palastri. Yeah, I think this is a good fight. I mean, something super shocking to me is that Jingnan is 38 years old. It's insane. I mean, we'll get to it later in our co-main, but Yan Jiannan is also like 37. It's crazy how old these fighters are getting. But it was kind of hard to differentiate between them. The biggest thing that stuck out to me was that Zhang Jingnan seems to be finishable by submission, and Palastri seems to not necessarily, I would say, be an expert at submissions, but to be very honed in her craft of submission. So I'm gonna lean decision sub by Palastri, but I wouldn't be shocked if Zhang Yang can get it done. She's had a really good career in ONE FC. Lost her last fight to Angela Hill. Angela Hill, even though she's getting old too, she's not an easy fighter to come in and beat in your first UFC fight. But nonetheless, I'm going to lean a little bit more with Palastri due to that submission threat, and I'm going to go with her to win. What do you think, man?
Yeah, I'd have to go with Palastri on this one too. It's basically all you said. Palastri just shows a little bit more kind of right now talent. Basically, is what this coming down to. When Jingnan came from ONE, I was one of the people that was like riding the hype train too. Yeah. She was a badass over in ONE. And then, like you said, Angela Hill, that was kind of the thing where they were like, dude, she did nothing in this fight. Angela Hill beat her. Yeah, Angela Hill's getting older. Angela Hill was also a badass in her heyday too. So it's hard for me to go with Jingnan after a fight like that. That's why I'm leading Palastri here. And I think that just kind of comes down to the, little bit younger of the fighter. She's going to be 10 years younger. And like you said, she has a little bit more of like a honed in craft on the ground.
Yeah.
I actually love the idea that you said where it was like a sub or decision for Palastri. I wasn't even kind of thinking the sub. I figured this would be honestly kind of a boring decision fight. But I could see her maybe pulling out like a round 2 or round 3 sub as well.
Yeah, 100%. Now, I will, so to counter that a little bit, I will say Jingnan has not been subbed in a long time, but, it's kind of something you always still think about, right? And Pilastri does have a plentiful amount of subs on her record. I think she's got about 3. But nonetheless, let's get into the next one. Next up, we got Lawrence Louis versus Hector Santiago. Yeah, so this is Hector's first UFC fight. He lost to a 13-7 guy this year. Now, to counter that, I mean, Lawrence Louis is the only thing he's done is really win the road to UFC, and that typically hasn't aged too well, seeing those fighters go on to find success in the UFC. But still, nonetheless, like I said with Lawrence Louis, I'm not really feeling much out of Hector Santiago, and at least Louis has that UFC fight experience. So I'm going to go with him. I would say hometown, but I know he's like New Zealand. But maybe he has some family from around that area. So I'm going to lean with Lawrence Louis. I'm probably leaning a decision because it seems like Hector Santiago can push it to a decision. I mean, you see he has a finish by a front body kick. But I wouldn't be super insanely shocked to see a KO TKO by Lawrence Louis. He gets a lot of, striking, body strike finishes. But more so, I think he's going to pull a decision out. Probably be a close fight. Might be a boring fight too. What do you think, man?
Yeah, I'm going Lawrence in this fight too. He like you said, he is from, obviously maybe not from New Zealand, but he fights at a city kickboxing. So they got some good guys in that gym that he's going to be training with, which means that he's going to have some type of stand up as well. But I think the way that he wins this is honestly going to be the ground game. He averages it's 5 takedowns per 15 minutes. He doesn't have the best ground game that we've seen because he doesn't really look for subs. But he has really good wrestling is kind of more what I'm meaning. So I could see this just being one of those kind of grind out on top control kind of fights for 15 minutes. I think that he's going to be confident in his striking. I think that this is going to basically be like, Santiago is coming from a kickboxing background, has good knockout power, more like one punch knockout power than Louis has. So I think that he might get hit one time and be like, I'm not going to stand with Santiago anymore, and then start wrestling, and then just kind of win maybe, round 2 and round 3 just off top control like that.
Yeah, that's a great point, man. I really do like that. Yeah. Honestly, it's something that's kind of underrated because you look at him from an outer view and you're like, well, he doesn't really have too much that signifies like a ground game record-wise. But you're 100% right that UFC, that championship he had for the road to UFC, he was very vigorous with his takedown. So that's a great observation there. But nonetheless, let's get into the next one. Next up, man, we got Jack Jenkins, the one-armed soldier. Versus Sean Woodson, the sniper. I kind of like to call him the spider because his arms are insanely long. I mean, all of his limbs are. But yeah, I mean, I'm a bit disappointed in this. I like Jack Jenkins. I think he's just had a really tough time. He stuck out in one of his fights probably about 2-3 years ago. He snapped his arm in the fight, and it was just brutal. But he's always been a tough guy. Not the best, but always been a tough guy. But they're feeding him a Goliath here, man. I mean, Woodson is 7 inches taller, 10-inch reach advantage. Always recalling knocked out Terrence McKinney on the Contender Series. But nonetheless, I think Woodson's just too big for Jack. I really like Jack Jenkins. I think he's a tough dude, but I just think Woodson is just too big. He's only going to lose to the top echelon guys, I think like a Dan Ige, like someone in the top 7, top 5 area. Jack Jenkins, I don't think is anywhere near that. I think he's like a top 15. Maybe if he got lucky and got the correct couple fights together, maybe he's in the top 10. But yeah, I think Woodson's going to get this done. I'm probably leaning KO TKO, but I wouldn't be surprised if Jenkins just toughs it out and gets it out of there via decision. What do you think, man?
Yeah, I'm leaning Woodson for this one as well. This is one of those 55% Woodson side to me. When I was kind of going back, watching some film, doing some research and stuff, Jenkins has pretty good leg kicks and is definitely the better wrestler per se versus Woodson. And I think that's going to be the way that he can win this. I think obviously Woodson, like you said, super long and lanky for this weight class. If he can invest in some decent leg kicks early, kind of slow Woodson down, and then maybe try to get him down towards the middle of the octagon where he can kind of, really get top control. Don't let, Woodson kind of wall walk back up and get back to his feet. Then he could maybe grind out like a two round win on that way. But if Woodson stops one or two of his takedowns and Jenkins just kind of gets, discouraged from that, then I think that this is going to be one of those Woodson keeping him at his, 10-inch reach
Yep.
advantage, just on the outside, picking them apart, kind of go into a decision that way.
Yeah, 100%. I 100% agree with you. I think this is going to either be a flat out war from Jack Jenkins, which will lead to like either a decision or split decision, either way, or this is going to be a Woodson masterclass. It really depends on who establishes their game plan first. But yeah, let's get into the next one. All right, next up we have the nut kicker, Xiao Long versus the dirty, dirty Italian, Francesco Nuzzi. Yeah, I mean, Xiao Long, what do we know about him? Lost his last fight from repeatedly kicking Cody Garbrandt in the nuts. Crazy. Don't even believe you can do that, but how many points did he get taken away? Maybe 3, right?
Yeah, I want to say it was 3.
I think Garbrandt won 1 round, right? Yeah, it was insane. Insane. But nonetheless, I mean, Nuzzi's coming in here. The Italian obviously is 2 inches shorter. Those dirty Italians, man. But yeah, I mean, this is a 2-fight losing streak for Long here. If he loses this, they're 100% going to cut him. If he doesn't win this in a good enough fashion, an entertaining fashion, I think they're going to cut him. So I'm going to go with the UFC experience and the hometown advantage of Xiao. But I will also mention, this isn't the first time he's been on a 2-fight losing streak. Previously in his career, he's lost 2 before and then came back, won 4. So I'm going to lean with his experience of having done this before, and I think Xiao Long is going to get it done here at home, probably by decision. But I wouldn't be insanely shocked to see a submission. What do you think, man?
Yeah, I pretty much have to agree completely. It hurts for me to go against the Italian here, but it's you're looking at Long. He's going to be the bigger fighter on home court advantage. He has 9 subs, and Nuzzi has lost by sub before.
Yep.
Not to mention Nuzzi, like you said, he's the smaller and taking this on short notice. So I think that all of this is just kind of stacked against Nuzzi coming in. Taking a short notice, like in a China card, is a pretty rough one. You need to get out there as early as you can, get your body acclimated and stuff. But I like the Long by submission pick. Like you said, I think that he does need to try to look for a finish here. I think him and his team is going to really be kind of, hey, we're on a 2-fight losing streak. Like you're always kind of here, but we need to make sure we're not getting cut next fight kind of thing. So even if he got a boring win and then lost his next one, I could see a cut after that. So I think he's really going to come out here, try to hunt for a submission. I think that's probably his best way to get this one done.
100%. And yeah, just like you're saying, when these guys come in short notice, getting out there is the most important thing. It's a bit easier when you have guys that are out in Australia because you're really just going north versus Italy. You're still in Western Europe, man. That's a huge time zone change. So it really depends on how much rest I think Nuzzi has gotten will determine how big of a fight he's going to be able to put up. Because Xiao Long is not like some world beater. You can put up a tough fight against him, but only if you're prepared, man. But yeah, let's get to the next one. Next up, we have Ray Tatsuria versus Kevin Borjas. Man, I hate Kevin Borjas so much. So much. I cannot believe he beat Andre Lima. That was an insane fight to me. He came in obese. But yeah, man, I cannot express how much I hate Kevin Borjas. Not for any particular reason. I don't think he's a horrible guy. He's probably a great guy. But anyways, I'm gonna go with Ray on this one. I think Ray had a great showing last fight, getting Gruel out of there. Round 1, rear naked choke. I think Gruel has been a tough fight for a lot of guys in the division. So yeah, I think he's going to get this done over Borjas. I'm going to go with either a decision or a sub. I'm leaning more sub, but a part of me wouldn't be super shocked if we see a ground and pound finish here. Ray gets on top of him, has complete control, and is just pounding him, and he can't get off of him. Wouldn't be super shocked there. But yeah, man, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm going Ray on this one. Like you said, Gruel's been a tough matchup for some of these guys in the past, and then his loss before that was against the current champion. He's got a much better ground game than Borjas. That Lima Borjas fight was one that if anyone watched it, they all were like, what in the hell is going on? And It's going to be brought up multiple times because Lima's fighting later on this card as well. It's Borjas is just, hey, I'm going to walk into this octagon and then run away from you and throw some strikes. for 15 minutes. That's like his game plan every single fight. It's insane. He gets hit like twice as much as what he throws.
Yep.
I think that this one's Ray is just going to come out. I don't even know if Ray's going to be throwing strikes, if I'm being honest. I think he's going to come out, he's going to shoot for a takedown, get it pretty easily, and then choke him out round 1 is my go.
Yeah, I think that's a great observation. But yeah, man, let's get on to the next one. Just like you mentioned, the shitter himself, Andre Lima, going up against a UFC debutant, Namsari Batabayar. Yeah, I think the odds, as long as, man, it's hard to talk about this fight. Just like you said, watching that Kevin Borjas Andre Lima fight, you're like, what is Andre Lima doing? It was just like Borjas is striking so sloppily, and you're just too scared to throw, and you're hesitating. And when you hesitate, Borjas is catching you with something. So as long as Andre Lima never does that again, I think he'll win a lot of fights. I think he'll be a decent flyweight. Just as long as he doesn't do that again. I think if he comes out still on those shaky legs, still not off of that Borjas loss, I wouldn't be supersized this guy, Batbayar. I believe he's from one of those like Kazakhstan, Myanmar like type of areas, and those guys seem to be really good fight culture, produce a lot of really good fighters. So if Andre Lima doesn't come out here with I need to bounce back and make a statement, I wouldn't be surprised to see Namsare get a submission here. But nonetheless, I'm still leaning Andre Lima. I have confidence he'll bounce back, and I think he's going to get this done via decision. I know he's a big KO guy, but I can't see him getting a KO on this guy at all. He's one of those, like I said, Kazakhstan, those type of Western Asian, I guess you kind of say, countries that just seem really, really tough. So I'm going to go with decision, maybe a submission. But what do you think, man?
Yeah, this one was hard to pick Lima here. I have to edge towards Lima, and it was rough picking that one. Batbayar is going to come in pretty aggressive is kind of his start basically. Hey, I'm gonna come in aggressive. I'm gonna pressure you. You could argue that Batbayar has a pretty good jiu-jitsu background as well. He gets hit a good amount. His ground game is pretty good, but like you said, I think Lima. Outside of that Borjas loss, Lima shows that he can be a good flyweight. And it was just like a very weird fight that he decided to fight it that way. Like he could have won the Borjas fight if he ever just decided to, basically. And I think that he now knows that coming into this fight. I think that's what it's going to be. I think that if Batbayar is going to win, I think that this is going to be more of like a round 1 for him. And as the fight goes on, I lean more Lima. So I'm personally probably going to take a Lima by decision. Makes the most sense for me.
Yeah, 100%, man. But next up, we got our short notice debut, Bilal Hassan, coming off his Contender Series win, I think about 2 weeks ago, versus another debut. Don't even know why we have a Contender Series, Nilson Rojas. Yeah, it's kind of hard to tell with two young, untested guys, given Bilal has insane hype around him. Very big on social media. But nonetheless, I'm going to go with Bilal. He's been fighting title defenses in Cage Fury, whereas Nilson has been fighting in FFC Latin America. I just think the level of competition is different. I think Cage Fury, the guys that go from Cage Fury to the UFC typically have success, so that typically means that these are going to be higher quality fights that you're having. So I'm going to go with Bilal Hassan. I think no matter what, this fight's going to end in a KO TKO. I'm leaning Bilal Hassan, probably like 70-30, 65-35, but by KO TKO. But for some reason, if Nelson gets this, I don't see Nelson getting a decision here. I see it being a KO TKO. But nonetheless, I'm leaning with Bilal. What do you think, man?
Yep, I'm picking Bilal here too. I think that this is going to be one of those. I think that Hassan is a better just all-around fighter, kind of in general. He works the body really well with kicks and punches and stuff. And he has really good cardio. So those two things kind of combined, I think will help him as the fight goes on. But I also don't think that he's going to necessarily need like 15 minutes for this fight. Basically, I think this is going to come down to, as long as Nilson doesn't clip Hassan early, which, Nilson is someone who starts pretty aggressively as well, has probably more of that one-punch knockout power than Hassan has. Nilson swings for the fences with like everything, basically, which is kind of why you see his kind of cardio taper out. So As long as Hassan doesn't get clipped early here, then I think that this is going to be a Hassan kind of walk away. Um, I could see this going to a decision, but I wouldn't be surprised if it stops early. Neither one of these guys are really going to be shooting for a takedown, so I think that this will be a pretty fun fight. It's basically just going to come down to who can take more shots is what it's going to come down to, in my opinion.
Nice. All right. Next up, we get into our main card here. I mean, I guess, sorry, Bilal Hassan was the first up on our main card. Next up, we have Louis C. versus Levi Rodriguez Jr., Baby Monster. You guys might remember him. I think he fought, oh man, maybe that was like almost a month ago, a little under. Lost to Felipe Franco. But nonetheless, man, I mean, they got Louis as like a 2-0. Oh, I guess the odds have tightened up a little bit since the last I checked. But he was a 2-1 favorite, and he's really just a kickboxer. He's 3-1 in MMA, got finished via ground and pound. But nonetheless, Levi just swings super hard and heavy, and Louis is packing I think a 5-inch reach advantage, 5-inch height advantage. So I think this is just going to be a kickboxing fight for him. I think he's going to keep him at distance. I don't see Levi shooting for a takedown in any fashion. And I think Louis is going to get him out of there. Probably a KO, TKO. But even if it goes to this decision, I don't see Levi is not a man that looks in great shape. Louis C. Seems a lot more in shape. He's been kickboxing for a while. That takes a lot of stamina. I think if it goes the distance, he's able to seal it there, but I would not be surprised if he gets a KO, TKO, because like I said, Levi just swings for the fences. What do you think, man?
Exactly with what you're saying here. We did see, Levi show a little bit in his fight with whoever you just
Felipe
said.
Franco.
Franco. He did, he hurt Franco for a little bit kind of thing. He showed some promise, and then Franco just kind of did one of those like, oh, hold on, you're a shitter kind of moments. And I think that this is kind of how this is going to go. Like you said, Louis coming from kickboxing, had a pretty good kickboxing record, and neither one of these guys are going to be shooting for takedowns. So, Levi, who's going to be a little bit slower, doesn't strike as much, lower on the footwork, gets hit a little bit more, going to get someone who's more what you could maybe say classically kickboxing trained, quicker on the feet, fast punches, great kicks, that kind of stuff. I think that this is going to be one of those Louis pretty easy days. I'm thinking kind of a late round 2 KO,
Like that.
or mid round 1. I think this is either going to be Rodriguez is so outclassed, or he can at least stay in it until he kind of starts to tire out.
Yeah, I like that, man. Yeah, great analysis on that. And then also I want to mention, if Levi just gets wrecked here in the first round, to me that's going to prove that he was perhaps popping steroids on the regional scene. He got his Contender Series fight overturned for popping steroids and looked totally different in that fight versus Freddie Vidal. But nonetheless, man, let's get on to the next one. Next up, we got Alex Perez versus Sumu Darji. Yeah, so this is a rebooking from their match in May. It was called off because of a nut shot. I think Sumu Darji whacked Perez there. The part of me, I agree with the odds with Sumu Darji was already looking really good in that fight against Perez. It looked like he was going to, take it over, either get a finish or win by decision in that fight. But when I go back and I look at the records, man, Perez is only losing to the top of the top guys. And, I assume Almabayev, I think, is going to be one of the top guys eventually. Versus Sumu Darji, his best win is a Kevin Borjas. So, and he's lost the match now, given that was probably about 4 years now. But nonetheless, it makes me be maybe there's a little bit of money on Perez. But, part of me is also man, if I just look at how the last fight's going. But taking that into consideration, I think Perez is a veteran. I think he's smart. I think he's got a good team around him. I think they're going to take that into account and game plan accordingly. I see him coming in here a little bit more sharp and taking it a little bit more to the ground because he knows he's not going to be able to handle him on the feet. Sumu Darji packs a 6.5-inch reach advantage. So I'm going to go with Perez here to be improved versus their first little tussle that didn't get to a finish or didn't get to a conclusion, and get this done either by decision or perhaps locking up a sub at some point. What do you think, man?
I'm agreeing with you completely here. We're both against the odds, and we both kind of had the same breakdown where Sumadarji looked so much better on the feet in their first fight. But that's one of the nice things about having another fight, having, whether it's a rebooking or you win or lose the second one, like both of these guys learned a little bit about the other
Hmm.
guy. And Perez, like you said, he has a better, kind of roster that he's fought. He's much better on the ground. When you look at Sumadarji, he's lost 6 times by submission. And, now Perez has lost by submission as well, but he's also fighting better people on the
Yes.
ground
Hmm.
and doing well. Like, when you can go pretty even with people that are worlds better than Sumadarji on the ground, then you're like, oh, you're going to be up in that class as well.
Hmm.
So I don't mind the Alex Perez by submission in this fight.
Hmm.
It's really going to be one of those, like, did they sit him down and go, listen, dude, you're going to lose if you stand up against this guy?
Yep.
And did Sumadarji's team go back and go, hey, listen, you're going to win unless he takes you down. So let's work on takedown defense because that shit's awful.
Hmm.
So that's what it's going to come down to. Can Perez get him to the ground? And did Sumadarji do enough to defend the takedowns?
Yep, 100%. So yeah, I'd say this is our hot pick of the night. I think this is where the best money is at because like we were talking beforehand, a lot of these odds are really exactly how we see it. You know what I'm saying? Like it looks like how the odds maker set it up, and that's usually not the case. You can usually find a couple sneaky ones. But this one really comes down to how did the teams take that first fight information and how did they mold it into their game plan. But yeah, man, let's get to the next one. Next up, we have Oriki Lang versus Kai Asakura. Yeah, man, I'm kind of excited about this. I loved Kai Asakura getting that bounce back. He kind of had a rough start to the UFC, losing to Pantoja and then again to Elliott, where I'm pretty sure he was a big favorite against Elliott. But then he was able to come back, fight Cameron Smotherman, and put his lights out in round one. Great to see. That's what he was doing before he got to the UFC. So, in my opinion, what I'm doing here is looking at Oriki Lang's previous losses and wins, and he lost to, I think it's Chris Haddon. He's Australian or New Zealand. But I don't think he's that great. I think he's solid, and then he's also lost to Rosas Jr. I think Kai Sakura would beat Rosas Jr. And on top of that, I think he can beat Oriki Long. On top of that, Zahabi KO'd Oriki Long way back when. So if he's able to KO you, I think Kai Sakura is able to KO you. So I'm going to go with Kai Sakura. Maybe he's able to go to distance, but I wouldn't be surprised if Oriki Long tries to get a little bit out there and keep striking with him because he likes to strike, and Kai Sakura is able to catch him with one of his hooks and put him out of there. So I'm going Kai Sakura, KO, TKO, but wouldn't be shocked if it goes to decision. What do you think, man?
I agree completely with you here. This is one of those where Kai came in riding a crazy hype train and they threw him to the wolves at Pantoja and he lost some of his hype. And then he went against Elliott and they were like, hold on, Elliott's getting a little bit older. This guy's and then he lost again. But these are two badass dudes and 2 submission losses. And then he goes against Smotherman and you go, oh wait, that's the Kai that we knew.
Yep.
Well, now he's fighting someone who's not going to be grappling with him. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of why you see the odds start to swing heavy to the Kai side again. Kai is an amazing, he throws great combos, super fast, good footwork and output as well. And, Oriki Lang he's not going to be someone who's going to be taking him down. So he likes to kind of, he's got good power, good combos as well, but he gets hit a lot. When he kind of does his little blitzes and comes in, he almost kind of does it blindly. Like he leaves himself open for attacks when he kind of comes in. And I think almost exactly like you said, I think that's when Kai's going to be able to kind of capitalize. Oriki Lang's going to come in. I think Kai will be able to kind of do a little, step back, fade, land a nice hook, probably TKO on the ground to finish him off.
Yep, 100%, man. I agree. Yeah, a lot of people think Oriki Lang, I see like the analysis acting like he fights like Sumadarji where he's kind of in and out, kind of like that distance fighter like Sean O'Malley. I'm like, dude, who are you watching? He kind of blitzes, you know what I'm saying? Goes in there with his hands up, tries to get in close and get a couple shots in and maybe getting you into the clinch. But yeah, man, I 100% see that Kai Sakura catching him on a breakaway or something. And on top of that, this is China versus Japan in Shanghai. This has got to be bad blood, bro. 100% this has got to be some bad blood. So I'm very excited to see how this goes down. But next up, let's get to our co-main event. Yan Xiaonan versus Denise Gomez, or how'd you say they pronounced her name on Contender Series?
I've heard a few people say Gomes. I heard one of the announcers on Contender earlier say Gomes, so...
Yeah, so who knows? But shout out Denise Combs. But yeah, man, something that shocked me, like we were talking about earlier, with Jingnan is that Yan is 37 years old. That's insane. I mean, this picture doesn't do her justice, but when you see her in a fight, you're like, you're 37? That's crazy. But yeah, man, nonetheless, I'm going to go with the hometown advantage of Yan. I think she's going to get this done. You know, Denise Gomez is losing, or Gomes is losing to Luma Lukeboon, given back in 2022, whatever. But if you're losing to Luma Lukeboon, you're not beating Yan Xiaonan. You know, Yan is really only losing to top 5 women. And I don't think Denise Gomez is at that height. You know, she has a win over Tabitha Ritchie. Her last fight was a loss to Jandiroba, and Jandiroba went on to fight for the belt after that. And on top of that, Yan has a win over Mackenzie Dern. So yeah, I'm gonna go with Yan Xiaonan to get this done. Probably a decision, but you know, maybe a KO TKO, but really I think it's gonna be a decision. What do you think, man?
Yeah, I'm agreeing with this one. You know, I think Denise she shows some improvements, and she is working her way up. You know, she is younger. She's only 26 coming into this fight. So she has, you know, at this weight class for women's, she's got another, you know, I mean, just like her opponent here, she got 11 years that she can keep improving and fighting at a high level. And Yana's a really good fighter. You know, she kind of is one of those fighters that in the women's division, it's almost, if you're not like the champion or the top 2 that's always fighting for the belt, you kind of get forgotten about. And that's kind of where Yan falls into, even though she's 100%. A really good fighter.
Yes.
And you know, she is going to be a little bit older here, yeah, but you know, she's got a lot more experience at high level opponents. She's got good striking. She's definitely the better like technical striker, you know, really crisp. You know, on the other side, Gomes probably has more power. She will be the younger fighter, you know, better at wrestling. But I think that this one honestly has like the opposite of fight of the night written on it. Yeah, I think that Gomes is going to be strong enough, durable enough, and can rely on her wrestling enough to not get finished by Yan. And I think Yan is going to be good enough with takedown offense on her feet to not get finished by Gomes. So I think this is going to be one of those boring 15-minute long fights, probably Yan, you know, a 29-28 or a 30-27, and we're going to be like, thank God it's over, time for the main event, and then we're going to probably deal with the exact same thing in the main event.
Yep, 100%, man, 100%. I could 100% see this one being a bore fest. I hope not, though. I hope not. But yeah, let's get to our main event. We got Umar Nurmagomedov versus Song Yadong. Yeah, man, I mean, the odds kind of speak to it, but I want to sing Song Yadong's praises a little bit. You know, he's only losing to the top guys, like an O'Malley. And given, yes, Umar is a top guy, but you know, I wouldn't be super shocked to see Yadong finally get Umar. You can only be so undefeatable like that for so long. Like we saw it finally come to Merab, and I don't think Umar is as good as Merab per se. I think Merab is willing to risk it a little bit more and get a little bit more messy to get it done, versus I think Umar always wants to play it safe. Given looking at his record, it's always a decision. I think Yadong's got a little bit, you know, just enough craziness in there to where maybe he's able to score a finish. 100% would be a KO TKO, but I wouldn't be shocked. Song carries a lot of power for the bantamweight division. So I'm going, my heart is saying Yadong, but obviously, just to be smart so I don't look like an idiot on YouTube, I'm going to say Umar by decision, unanimous decision. It's going to be a boring fight, and I'm going to cry. What do you think, man?
Unfortunately, I'm kind of seeing the same thing you are here. You know, I think this is going to be a 25-minute snooze fest for Umar. And, you know, obviously you can go through all the accolades, you know. Nurmagomedov, so obviously takedowns are there. He's good at chain wrestling. He's an underrated striker as well. You know, I'm not going to, you know, really say he's like Islam, but similar where when you come from that camp, everyone's like, oh my God, it's a crazy wrestler. And Umar and Islam both have like worlds better striking than like a Khabib did when he was really big. So underrated striking for sure. Will be the smaller guy. And exactly like you said, Song, he's one of those guys who, if there's kind of an upset for Umar, Song could be the guy that do it. You know, I could almost see this being like Song overextends a little bit with his kind of striking combos, which is going to leave him open for a takedown. And if it kind of works out, you know, placement in the octagon where he overextends, Umar shoots, and then they end up kind of on the fence, I mean, how many times have we seen Song land like vicious elbows from the clinch?
Yep.
And he's gonna be the bigger guy in this fight, which is gonna come to his advantage. You know, it doesn't happen all the time that he's the bigger guy. So I think that this is gonna be the Umar 25-minute, snooze fest. Maybe Umar gets a sub, but Song is good on the ground as well. But I'm really hoping this is like a round 2 crazy like elbow clinch knockout for Song, so it can be done and we can just kind of move on with our Saturday. But yeah, I'm hoping that this is a quicker fight, but like everyone is seeing here, this is gonna be an Usman by decision.
Yeah,
Or
Umar.
Umar by decision.
What's the difference, man? What's the difference? They're all the same person. Yeah, and just to add to the Yadong propaganda, I mean, they both just fought Figueroa, and he subs Figueroa versus Umar went to decision. That's not, and they didn't fight him too far off. Like, Yadong fought him, like 4 or 5 months later? So, just to add a little bit to the propaganda, but like you said, we're kind of going with the odds here. But next up, let's look at what we have in terms of potential parlays and bets. So, like we mentioned last time, guys, we're doing this earlier in the week, so it's hard to find exact odds. So what we like to do is kind of list out some of the potential bets to look out for down the week to see if you can try and score some cash. But take it away, man. What do you got for us?
Yeah, like we just finished up there, the Umar money line is probably going to be one of your safer bets for today or for this weekend. If you're sitting at a -4, -5, 600, I wouldn't even put sprinkle money on it at that point. If you wanted to get, kind of special and you wanted to put some money on like a Song TKO KO, I'm sure that would be pretty good plus money. We have a parlay for Kai and Sean Woodson. I'm pretty sure that the Kai's going to get it done. Woodson, you can kind of argue both sides, but I see Woodson being able to stuff a couple takedowns and then kind of make it his fight for those 15. And then I have Ray by sub as well. I think that, he's just too good on the ground for the people he's going against at this point, where he should be able to get that done pretty quick. And then something we talked about earlier that we don't have up here is the Perez win. He's a underdog right now and much better on the ground than Sumadori. So a Perez submission is probably going to get you, plus 400 maybe or something by times of fighter release. So that wouldn't be a bad thing to sprinkle with some money on either.
Yeah, 100%, man. But yeah, that's all we have for you guys. I think we'll try and do a reaction vid. I'm away on vacation this upcoming week, but obviously we're doing a vid next week. But we'll see if we can get a reaction vid up. But either way, we'll have our next video out next Thursday going over the fights for that week. Let us know what you think. Leave a like, leave a comment, and subscribe. See you guys later.